Hello, and thank you for tuning in to another edition of Tips Time with Josh Klein. I actually ended up taking a 2 week break from doing this channel just because of a few trips that I did during this summer. But I hope everyone's had a good couple weeks and looking forward to getting back to the weekly tips that I come out with in terms of electronic music, producing it at an efficient rate, being productive in your producing sessions, staying on track with your songs, all that kind of stuff. So if you are not familiar with the channel, I would definitely recommend you to look at the first video that I posted because that's a great resource for figuring out why I started this channel and what it is I am offering on this channel in terms of what areas I target and what I like to talk about. But essentially, it is what I was just talking about, which is being productive in your producing sessions, tips and tricks on being fast with your tracks, as well as kind of looking at the mental side of it. What kind of mindset you should have when you're producing tracks. Things that I've learned along the way, because I am admittedly not the most experienced producer, but I'm also someone that is very open with just sharing what I've experienced along the way, mistakes that I've made, things that I've learned, all that. So this week we are going to talk about the difference between producing and sound engineering. Or sound design, whatever you want to call it. But at least for me, when I started producing, I was overwhelmed with the concept of sound design. And when I first started looking into actually what sound design is, like I said, it was really overwhelming because you get faced with these synthesizers that are very complicated and they just look daunting in a sense, like any synthesizer. It doesn't really, there's obviously some out there that are a little more at the basic level, such as, even a synthesizer that's as basic of a synthesizer like the stock synthesizer of Ableton Operator, it still is quite daunting when you're looking at it right off the bat. So the tip I would give this week when talking about producing and sound design, I would say for someone that is new, that is just learning about sound design, the tip I would give this week is that you don't need to design all of your sounds to make a great track. You don't need to have sound engineering mastered in order to be productive as a producer, to get the sounds that you want, to be able to make sounds that fit your track or what have you. You still have a lot of freedom even if you don't create your own sounds. And it's very easy to mix them up because they are correlated and they do fit in with each other. But even like I just did, I almost called, sound producing. Like they just go very easily together, but they are different things. So, like the producing section is obviously arranging your sounds and the processing of it. But the sound engineering is quite simply, you're taking nothing and starting to create a sound from it. And it starts from the very basic wave form that you start with. And as you learn more with sound engineering, it does open up your world of connections and possibilities when you start to understand how things are created in a synthesizer, how it can apply and create more opportunity for you when you are producing it. So there's nothing to take away from learning sound engineering. I just want to give some perspective that when there's sound engineering and there's presets made in your track, or there's presets made in the synthesizer you are using, a sound engineer more likely than not made that. Someone that went to school for it. So, or if not, it was someone that spent countless hours learning how to make. So don't expect yourself to be able to make sounds like that right off the bat. It's going to take a lot of time to get there. But that would be the tip that I keep going back to, is that you can still make great tracks without that. So for example, in this track I have right here, I'll just play the little loop here. Okay, so you can see here I have 2 MIDI clips, and they're both with synthesizers, both the Synth EV, which is a synth by Arturia that I really like. But I essentially just used a preset here. I used a preset, and then from there, I kind of tinkered with it a bit more. I would say to not tinker with the oscillators right off the bat, because you don't want to be switching up the waveforms and throwing that off. That's kind of the base. You want to leave that. But what I would say, if you're newer to producing and you want to start tinkering with presets, is to look at the FX. A lot of synths will have this thing called a mod wheel, which is, there's 4, in this case, there's 4 different FX linked to this mod wheel, and you can kind of move it around to get a feel for what kind of variety you can get in the sound that this sound design is capable of. And but yeah, I found a preset that was kind of close to the sound that I wanted, or I saw the possibility that it could have, and then I started to move the different effects around, and then I modulated that, and then I processed it further through my processing chain here on Ableton. So you can still be very, very creative, put your own spin on things without having to create your own sounds. I just don't want people to be thinking that when they first start, because at least when I first started producing, I saw how sound design could really help me, and I spent so many hours trying to learn it, that it ended up taking away from the amount of time and the amount of things that I would learn just producing. So a good way of proactively learning, like I was alluding to there, is to kind of find a preset that is in the area, in the range of sound that you want, and then tinkering with that. And as you go along, you'll be able to be productive in your producing sessions, because you won't be getting stuck on just trying to make a sound, because you'll be starting from the preset. But as you tinker more and more and more, you will get more familiar with that synthesizer, and you'll be able to start experimenting and trialing more things at a further in-depth level, learning more and more complexities of that synthesizer. So that's a great way to start, and that's what I would say for anyone that's newer to producing. But yeah, let me know what you guys think. Do you fully produce, or do you fully design all of your sounds? If so, how long does that take you? How much experience do you have, for how long it takes you? I love all the feedback, guys. So if you want to talk about it, just message me or leave a comment below saying, do you prefer to design all of your sounds? Are you okay just using samples and just producing your session without any sound engineering at all? I'd love to hear your thoughts. I hope this video helped and gave you a little bit of perspective, and I will talk to you all next week. Okay, have a good one.